Afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for Design Discussions, Inception to Installation. I want to thank you for joining us during Design ADAC. I'm Savannah Amerson, Vice President of Sales with Cravat Inc. for the Southeast region, and I'm pleased to be here to introduce our guests, Clary Bosbichel and Stephen Elrod. During the presentation, please feel free to make use of the chat feature to submit any questions and comments along the way. We will be monitoring that. And towards the end of the discussion, we will open up for live Q&A with our guests. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Stephen Elrod. Stephen Elrod is the Executive Creative Director for Lee Jofa. Originally hailing from Indiana, Stephen does share his time between New York and Charleston, and in normal times, perhaps traveling a bit more than any of us have had the opportunity to do so in the last year. Stephen's role as creative director, he's responsible for the development of the most successful collections and collaborations the Lee Jofa brand has experienced. As a heritage brand dating to 1823, Stephen is responsible for maintaining the integrity of the historic traditions of craftsmanship and archival designs while bringing fresh perspectives and relevancy to today's world. Clary Bosbichel is a designer hailing from Atlanta, Georgia. Clary grew up steeped in the design world. She was raised going from antique shops to sample sales and working closely with all kinds of creative endeavors. A graduate of the University of Georgia, Clary has also studied design in Italy and joined Margot Interiors Limited in 2009. Since launching her own eponymous firm, she's had the opportunity to work with clients around the world on both contemporary and traditional design endeavors. I'd like to welcome both of them to share in a conversation today around the inception of a new collection from Lee Jofa, the Avondale Collection, and its installation as a living and breathing environment in our Atlanta showroom. Welcome, Stephen and Clary.
Thanks, Savannah.
Thank you so much. What a great introduction.
Hi, Clary.
Hi, Stephen.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We're going to spend a few minutes just talking about you and your career and your approach to designing this space for, which we really appreciate. So I'm going to turn it over to you to just talk about your business, your style, your clients, and the things that inspire you, and then led to the inspiration behind the room that you're so beautifully doing for us in our ADAC showroom.
Thank you. As Savannah mentioned, I was raised in the interior design world. My mother, Margaret Bosbichel, is also an interior designer. So as a child, I came to ADAC, I went with her to clients' houses, and really just grew up surrounded by beauty and, design. And my mother, our home growing up was very traditional, and it was covered in chintz and, all the wonderful antiques. And so I really, have a foundation that is very traditional in my design work. And most of my clients are about contemporaries of mine, sometimes a little bit older. And, I love to work with them on, kind of curating a beautiful home and collecting antiques and, making things not only friendly for children, but also dogs, and without, sacrificing beauty. So really, I was very inspired by the fabrics when creating the Avondale room. And, I really focused on my hero fabric. So I picked kind of my favorite floral within the collection and then built it off of that floral fabric. And I love mixing different prints in all of my design projects. I loved how there were so many different prints to mix in, not only kind of the ikat patterns and stripes, that really worked well with the floral fabric. Most of my design work does have a lot of blue and white in it. I find my clients love blue and white, and I love blue and white. So I was thrilled to see that the collection did have some great blues and whites to mix in. Because this was the spring collection, I also wanted to add some great green, in to make it feel more fresh and gardeny. And really, I dream about a home with kind of a garden room that's got, trellis and wicker and, just a space where you would have a glass of rosé with a girlfriend and just really feel like you were outside. So I was really thrilled to see that the new collection of furniture included a chair that was out of wicker. I just absolutely love the lines of it, and it really worked well with the fabric that I selected on it. And then I've been really going back to my 80s roots and, gathering the skirts on sofas and chairs. I think just is an absolute beautiful way of making it not only feminine, but also timeless. And so I chose this great tight back English arm lounger with the ruffled skirt. And then because it had such a great skirt, I love the idea of putting the sofa on legs and also having the tight back to really show off the floral fabric. And so I love, the lines of the sofa and how you can really see the full repeat of the floral fabric on there. And then just to kind of add a little whimsy, I chose, the other fabric and did the brush caterpillar, edging on it. Again, just giving it another, great detail. Actually, the rug that I chose for the space is an indoor-outdoor rug. And, the beautiful green palette reminded me of grass. And so, kind of again, the feeling like the indoor outdoor feeling of the space. And then the coffee table has a great Ming leg and is wrapped in kind of a grass cloth type material. Again, just mixing all of those different materials of the grass cloth with the, kind of floral prints and everything. And then the lamps, actually, funny enough, are by a designer that y'all work with, Paul Schneider, and his wife actually was a capo with me at Georgia. And so I was thrilled to see, that y'all are now working with his lamps. I think they're absolutely beautiful. I love that they're handmade and hand painted. And I love that kind of juxtaposition of the kind of artistry hand on them, with the more, tight patterns of the florals. So I loved, using those lamps as well. And of course, in my tried and true blue and white, color palette. So that was really kind of how I put together the room and my inspiration behind it.
Did you approach the space more or less like you would with a client?
I did, because it was a space I was kind of designing for myself personally. I did everything that I love, with a client sometimes, they probably, of course, I'm designing the room for them. So if they have small children, it might be not ideal to have a ceramic lamp. We might do something that was a little more child friendly and things like that. But, overall, I designed it kind of thinking about how would I want this to look in my own home.
And to that end, do you see your clients' taste or desires for their homes changing much, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic?
I always try and encourage people to have a very traditional foundation and to live what they love. And so I really work from that hero fabric and then really try and collect the room, off of those different, patterns and things. So no, I mean, I still am encouraging people to do what they love. The pandemic lead times have been a little bit longer. So I'm also just saying, hey, you know what? It's going to be so worth it when it gets here. You're going to love this sofa for the next 10 years.
I know Savannah spoke about your background. Having growing up in the interior design world, Did you expect to follow in your mother's footsteps?
I really did. I also I love fashion, and I think fashion and interior design are really closely related. I briefly after graduating went to Savannah and managed a clothing store that sold kind of contemporary clothing. And really, after 9 months, I knew that my heart was in interior design. Fashion is a little more kind of go, 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 go. I don't feel like it's more fast fashion type items, whereas design is kind of, you can create a room that 20 years from now still looks timeless and beautiful. Whereas sometimes I look back at the outfits I wore 10 years ago and I'm cringing a little bit. So I liked that design was also unique in the sense of like, it is, this room is for this specific person where you can kind of copy an outfit. Whereas I feel like when you're doing design work, it's more creative. I like the interaction with the client and designing the home for them. And I always knew that I probably would do design, but I had to kind of get this fashion thing out of my system. And, now I still like clothes, but I like the design work much better.
And you worked with your mother for 10 years before starting your own namesake firm.
I did.
The two of you must have very similar taste and points of view on things.
We do. My mom and I's clientele is actually a little bit different. My clients are more my age. I'm 36. And so they're kind of buying now their forever homes and really starting to collect. Whereas my mom's clients are more her age. I'm going to not reveal how old she is, but she is a little bit older. And most of her clients, she calls it, they're upsizing, not downsizing, but they're possibly moving out of those homes, moving into high rises, second homes. So she's taking all of these beautiful pieces, she's sold them and now recovering them or getting new upholstery. And, they don't need as much perhaps as some of my clients do, because some of my clients are really kind of starting from scratch. They don't have these collections. And now we're trying to help them get those collections. My mom always taught me, if you buy one antique a year, in 10 years, you'll have great pieces. So I'm always trying to encourage that to my clients in the design work. But my mom and I both do have a very traditional, foundation in our work. So you can see kind of, different, the kind of similar, things that we like. And, we still like to call each other and talk about what we're doing. But it was, a little better for our mother-daughter relationship to kind of start to, after 10 years, let her be grandma now and not, kind of my business partner.
So there weren't any moments where you threw one another into your client's swimming pool over disagreement about
No, not at all. We loved working together. It just, they're actually now moving this week. They're in my house currently. They are moving down to Sea Island permanently. They're leaving Atlanta. And I've just recently had a small baby, Margot, who you're seeing in some of these slides. And working from home is a little more makes more sense just for where I am, with my family and everything. So for us, it just made more sense to go ahead and kind of part ways and just still be each other's cheerleaders, but not, be in the same, be the same business.
So there's no dynasty sort of drama.
No dynasty type stuff at all.
Congratulations on your daughter.
Thank you.
You have a young son as well.
I do.
So you're busy.
Yes, he's 8.
How is it to balance all of that?
That's a great question. I am extremely organized and I kind of work at strange hours of the day. I get up really early in the morning and I sometimes work at night. And when I'm with my clients, I'm really focusing on them and my business. And then when I'm, with my family, I really try and put my phone away and just, focus on them, which can be really hard because I'm, trying to multitask. But I think to be good at those things, you have to kind of focus on one thing at a time versus trying to do too many things at once. And you know, a few years ago, my son, when I was at a baseball game, I remember him looking up at me and I'm sitting on my phone trying to talk to a client. I could kind of see in his eyes, like, "Hey mom, did you just see my big hit here?" And so that kind of was a, oh wow moment. I need to, you know, pay attention at the baseball game and I can, you know, get to this email later. But I work, you know, just with a handful of clients at a time. So also I don't spread myself too thin so I can really, you know, do a good job for them and, um, you know, complete their project.
Well, I think it's great that you're sharing that because I think there are probably a lot of young designers who are in the same sort of situation, and likewise balancing life and work. Is it difficult to set up sort of parameters for your clients so they're not calling you on a Sunday morning at 8 a.m.?
You know, a lot of them do that. I just have learned I just don't respond. And so, you know, I send a text back and say, "Hey, I got your text message. Would you mind sending me an email and I will get back to you on Monday. You know, hope you enjoy the rest of your day."
That's good that you can sort of shut it off when you have to, which I think is
Yes.
really important.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Exactly. I know the room is coming together beautifully. Can't wait to see it finished. I
Yes.
know you use wallpaper,
Yes.
a new design called Whitaker that we've done, which happens to be one of my personal favorites.
I love it.
Um, I know wallpaper is really important in the marketplace today,
Yes.
and I think in your own work. Is that correct?
Yes, I absolutely love wallpaper. If I could wallpaper every room of every client's house, I completely would. I just love the added layer it gives to the space, and I love kind of more is more almost. And so I think wallpaper is so wonderful and I love it. A great thing I love to do when I use wallpaper too is paint the trim kind of a color that's within the wallpaper. So like in this floral fabric right here, I might pick like the light blue and paint the trim and the baseboard the light blue. And then it just really pops the paper. And that's just something I, you know, love to use in my design work too. So
Well, here's the wallpaper using in our space. So what color are you painting the trim?
a blue.
Oh, there you go. Benjamin Moore or Farrell and Ball, do you have the color number? Because people are sure to ask.
Sure. You know, well, in the particular space at ADAC, I actually decided to leave the trim white just because of the way it's open, you know, that there is kind of some openings in it. So, and in the trim, it didn't make sense in our particular space, but if it was
Yeah,
a client's home, I'd be painting it blue and I'd probably be using Faro and Ball, maybe light blue.
got it. Got it. Anything else specifically about the room? I know you referenced some of the new Lee Joffa furniture pieces that you used, which I was so happy you used what we call the Blythe chair, which is our new English chair with the ruffled skirt. I was on the same wavelength. You know, I'm a fairly tailored traditionalist, but I love a ruffled skirt, and it's so cool to kind of see them come back.
Totally.
You know, I'm of a certain age, probably your mother's age, and so I've seen trends come and go.
Totally.
So definitely the second time around for a ruffled skirt and some of the colors that we're using today. But it's fun, and I'm glad to see a new audience sort of responding to it.
Totally. And what I really love about the Blythe Chairs gathered skirt is it is a big, true gather. You know, I look at some of the, you know, skirts on these gathered chairs and they're kind of wimpy. I like, you know, a great gather on there. So I was thrilled when I saw the tear sheet that the gather was actually a good beefy gather.
And that's really important to us. You know, I know
Yes.
With the drapery treatment or a shirred skirt, you need at least a 2.5 to 1 ratio
Yes.
fabric to get the proper volume. So nice to see you recognize that.
Yes.
I also happen to love wicker furniture, and you're incorporating this great wicker chair in the room as well, which we call, look at my cheat sheet here, the Hertford chair.
I know I was really so excited about all the new, you know, furniture introductions. I mean, once I saw those in the fabric collection, it was my vision was, you know, garden room, go for it. You know, everything really came together and I was very excited about all the pieces. So I'm, you know, sitting here thinking about where can those Blythe chairs go in my own home.
It's great. The screen that just on the slideshow, the screen that just passed actually showcased the print, which is the primary
Yes.
print that you use in the room, which we call Wimberley. And again, when we put this collection together, we think about, obviously, Lee Jove is a very traditional house, but
Yes.
how can we keep that appropriate for today's market, attract a different customer, and keep it fresh, and particularly keeping it pretty. And so this particular print, we adapted from an English documentary fabric from, probably it was originally done in about 1920.
Okay.
It would have been hand block printed. But the original document was much stronger in color, much bolder. And we wanted to take and reinterpret it in a way that felt newer and fresher. So when we started talking about putting together this space in the ADAC showroom, I just felt, and we all collectively felt, that your style and your aesthetic was perfect for what we were trying to pull together with this new collection.
Well, thank you. And being in the South too, Southerners, we like color. And so I love, the colors that the collection came in, not only the colors, that I use, the blues and the greens, but, the fabric on the slide currently. I love the corals and the purples, and some of the other, colorways that I didn't end up working with. And just, like I said, being in the South, we love the color. And so I'm, thrilled to see, some of these pinks and things now too, as part of the collection.
Well, I love being a part-time Southerner myself, because, in the South, spending a lot of time in Atlanta in particular, I know that y'all like to decorate.
We do. You are right. We are the Southerners. We are proud homeowners. I love to entertain. This year has been so hard to entertain. I've had family gatherings outside and things like that, but I'm, really hoping that, later this summer and stuff, I can start inviting friends back into my home. And, I'm as Southerners, and we are proud of our homes. And I think that's great. Like you said, we love a decorated house, and to get our silver out and the tablecloth, and, put, as my mom says, put the dog on.
Which is great. You know how to live well, which I think is really important, especially with what we've just gone through, or
Yes,
still going through in some ways.
totally. 100%. And, with the pandemic, I really feel like we are all focusing more on home and what does that mean to us? Because we're spending so much more time in our house. And, you know, to be quite frank, I was quite worried about my small business right when the pandemic hit, thinking, gosh, am I kind of going to be pausing for a little bit because I don't know what life is going to look like? And it was quite the opposite, actually. It was, people were starting to email, hi, I'm at home. I've been here for 6 weeks. Gosh, like I really want to redo my living room now. I feel like I'm almost busier than ever. And people are really wanting, their homes to be beautiful because we've all spent so much time in them. And then to think, gosh, now I want to have people over again. And I want things to be, looking great and, really showcase after a year of not having anybody. This is kind of what I've been up to. I've redone my living room and it's gorgeous. And I can't wait to show it to you.
Well, I think we have experienced the same thing on our end. Thankfully to you and the other designers who, we're fortunate enough to sell product to. We, obviously got very quiet for a period of time, but then things really bounced back last summer, and our business is very, very strong. So it just echoes the same things that you're saying, as well as many other designers around the country. Back to Atlanta, I know Atlanta
Yes.
experienced tremendous growth.
Yes.
Lots of people moving in from other parts of the country. Do they adapt that Southern mentality, that Southern approach to living readily, or does it take them a while to catch on if they come from someplace like New York or wherever the case might be?
I think it depends. I mean, I have a wonderful client I'm working with right now, and she and her husband are from Ohio. And, when they hired me, they said, Clary, we have moved here from Ohio. We know that Atlanta is traditional. They bought, in Tuxedo Park, which is it's kind of near the governor's mansion. And they said, we really want to embrace Atlanta. We want our home to reflect the South and traditional design. And, I was thrilled to hear this, obviously, because this is what I love to do. And so I would say I'm most likely my client is going to want kind of the look that I'm designing for. So I don't necessarily and I'm happy to do contemporary work. I just don't usually get interviewed to do things like that. So I would say most of my clients, that is what they want is a traditional feel. And so if they're moving here from, different parts of the country, if that's kind of what they like, then that's, what I'm going to work with them on achieving. You're right. It's crazy. I've gotten so many new inquiries of people moving from California and New York. And it's, the housing market here is crazy because of that, which is wonderful. But yes, I mean, I think Atlanta is such a beautiful city, but we do have a little bit for everybody too. There are very contemporary houses, transitional homes. There are so many great designers in the city that do, all different kinds of work. So I think if, whatever your aesthetic is, there's definitely enough people around to help you achieve that too.
I'm experiencing some technical difficulty, unfortunately. I don't know if you can still see me or hear me.
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay, great. I can't see you, but we'll just march
Oh,
along.
okay.
Well, that's great to hear that's happening. I'm sure many of your clients have second homes or thinking about second homes.
Yeah.
Do they take a different approach to the way they decorate for those places?
That's a great question, Stephen. It really depends where they are. A lot of Atlanta people have homes down in Sea Island, Amelia Island, which is off of Florida. And I tend to approach beach projects kind of similar to kind of the Palm Beach look. I love, the bright colors, the bamboo, those types of approach. And that, really is, I think, what a lot of my clients, like as well. And, you probably wouldn't do some of that in Atlanta, just with the way the house is and kind of the architecture and everything. So I think it is always fun to kind of visualize, what would my beach house look like? How different can it be from my Atlanta home, and kind of have that be, its jewel box of, the wicker and the bamboo and, the bright coral colors and yellows and, maybe some different colors you wouldn't necessarily use in your Atlanta home too.
Very good. What about the Highlands? You have clients in?
I have a client at Lake Toxaway. My mom has a lot of clients in Highlands. My mom does a lot also in Sapphire Valley, Lonesome Valley. Again, very different approach than an Atlanta home, maybe using a lot more dark woods and more rich colors and things like that. So again, it's always, fun to kind of have a whole new design for a different home, outside of Atlanta, and what does that look like? And so I just, that can be very fun as well.
I know you've reacted to some of the things in our new furniture, our new fabrics, to pull the room together, but are there any trends or things that you see happening in the marketplace that are piquing your interest or you can't wait to use?
Yes. I have been kind of deemed by House Beautiful as kind of this grand millennial designer. And I think, that is kind of what we've talked about today, referring back to these kind of, kind of 80s designs, I guess, is really, the print on print, using the wicker, the ruffled skirts.
Yeah.
So while I think it's a trend, to me, it's something I've kind of always known. So I don't necessarily consider that a trend. I think it's kind of timeless, but I do think, a lot of people my age are looking back at this, and now on Instagram, with Instagram, you can make anything popular. So I think it's kind of like a trending thing in the design world. But, I tend to think of it being more timeless. So I'm obviously thrilled that there's more options out there for me and fabrics and furniture that are more like the things that I like. So I am glad that the perhaps minimalist trend is over. Not to say that we don't love a restoration hardware, but that's not necessarily my aesthetic. I just tend to like a more layered antique look. There is a life where I think restoration, that very clean look, is beautiful, but that's not perhaps my client.
I hear ya. You mentioned Instagram. How important is social media, Instagram, whatever the outlet might be, to building your business?
For me, Instagram has been an amazing tool to build my business. I remember about, let me think how long ago it was. I guess it's been about 5 or 6 years. I did a show house down in New Orleans. It was their traditional home. It was called the Southern Style Now Show House. And I flew down there not knowing any of the other designers in there. I was, young and kind of so thankful I was included. And there was another Atlanta designer. His name is Brian Patrick Flynn. You might know him from HGTV. And he picked me up from the airport and I was like, hey, let's be friends. And, I really listened to a lot of the advice that he gave me and said, Claire, you need to have all your work professionally photographed. You need to put it on social media. 6 years ago, Instagram wasn't what it was now. I mean, I feel like each year Instagram is changing. And so I kind of felt like he was at the forefront of this kind of Instagram movement and really putting your work out there. And what is great about Instagram is it's immediate. It's not like a website where you put it on and then your client has to find your website. You have to get a website developer. At least I don't know how to add things to my own website. So, Instagram is kind of real time. And I think a lot of people like to see what you're doing real time. And it's a great way to showcase your design work, and people can find you and follow you. And it's a great tool for marketing. So, I do have a little bit of a love-hate relationship of Instagram, because I think it can be a complete time suck at the same time.
Right.
Sometimes I find myself laying in bed at night scrolling through and I'm like, oh gosh, I've been on here for an hour. I need to put my phone down and go to sleep. But it's been a great way to connect with, other designers and new clients. And I will say almost every new client inquiry is, hey, Claire, I was referred to you by, Meredith. I went to her house. I looked at your Instagram. I love your work. I see that you're a young mom. I have kids, I have dogs. It seems like you'd be a great fit to work on our house. So I've been thrilled with it, and I think it's great. I also think that, you have to realize it is what it is, and Instagram is not real too. You're never going to show, a photo of like you in tears with the baby screaming. And so, you also have to remember that it is, it's pretty, and I like to put out pretty things. And, so I love it, but I am also, careful about like not putting up, I like to keep my personal life personal. And I love to show my beautiful family, but I also like to kind of not showcase them too much. And, my son is getting to an age where he's like, Mom, like, I don't want to be on your Instagram. So I'm respectful of his wishes. And, I'm not putting up photos of him that he might be embarrassed about, 10 years from now.
How often do you post? Do you do it regularly?
Honestly, I post kind of when I feel inspired. It depends if I have content or not. I love to travel, not as of in the last year, but when I love to travel, I love to post, beautiful things that inspire me. I just recently went to Palm Beach to the Kips Bay Show House and loved being down there. And I stayed at the Colony, and that was so much design inspiration in the new lobby that has been redone by Kimball Interiors, and going to different antique stores. And so, I thought some of my followers might want to see what I was up to.
I think that's great. I know you studied in Italy. Where are some of your favorite places to travel?
Oh,
Definitely when we have the
gosh.
opportunity to do so again.
Yes. I love going down to Sea Island. My parents are moving there. I got married there. I love the beach. I love kind of that whole low country area of, Charleston, Savannah, those all those areas I think are just so beautiful. So if I'm driving in the car, I love to go there. If I'm flying in an airplane, my favorite place in the world is the Amalfi Coast in Italy, right off of, Positano, Capri. When I studied in Italy, I was based in Cortona, which is in Tuscany. And then on the weekends, the University of Georgia took us, to Florence and Montepulciano. And we went as far north as Naples, as Venice, and then as far south as Naples. And so I really traveled all over the state or the country, not the state, and just was so inspired. But the place that I loved the most was, again, I love the beach and the water. And I loved Amalfi and thought, I have to come back here as an adult with my husband. And so we went back a few years ago, and I just absolutely loved it and hope to have the opportunity to go back again at some point.
Any specific projects you've got going on that you're finding to be a great challenge or really enjoyable? Not to put you on the spot, or
Oh, yes. The client I mentioned that is, from Ohio, her project has been absolutely wonderful. It's a whole house project, and she's really trust the design process, which I love, and really let me do what I do best. And I'm really excited about the way, her house is turning out. We have lots of hollyhock that I'm thrilled to, put everywhere. And it's been a wonderful project, and I can't wait to, photograph it and put it out there. I'm also working at a client's lake house in Toxaway. It's been fun kind of, doing a second home. So I love all my projects. I love my clients, and I'm excited about things. The delays have been a little bit challenging, but I'm finding new ways to get around the delays and recovering things, and just also saying, this is a timeless thing. It will, when you get here, when it gets here, you're going to be so happy, and we're just going to, order it, and we're going to close our eyes, and guess what? It's going to be here in a few months, and it's going to be like Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've brought it up, but we are experiencing some difficulty with delivery, shipments. There's just a whole multitude of things that have impacted our business in a fairly negative way. But I think if you manage your clients' expectations, and as you said, get creative. But I think one thing I hear rhetorically from a lot of designers is that their clients are less willing to wait for things. I think it's just the nature of the world today.
100%. Amazon has ruined everybody's expectation level. But I think, like you said, Stephen, going in the beginning, I'm getting a lot better about if I'm meeting with a new client, about saying like, hey, this is where we are. We've been in a global pandemic. The supply chain, is really, well, maybe 6 months ago, it wasn't as affected. I think we are now seeing the repercussions of COVID on the supply chain, and just saying like, look, this is going to be something, this is your forever home. And so it's going to be better to wait for the right thing than to just run around and find a bunch of stuff that's not exactly the right thing. And, once people start to kind of think, okay, you're right, then I think they're fine. They're fine with it. So I think if you go in saying, look, this is going to take a year to do your house. And that's just, homes are collected over time regardless. And once you kind of put it out there that it's going to take a little longer, I love to pleasantly surprise people when things come in quicker than I say. So I'm like, okay, it's 12 weeks. It's going to be 20. And then when it gets there at 12 weeks, you're like, hey, surprise, it's here. But good things just take time, and, like y'all's beautiful fabrics, it's worth the wait.
There's so many beautiful, beautiful homes in Atlanta, Buckhead, throughout the city. Are most of your clients moving into those older homes? Or I know there's a tremendous amount of new build as well. Is it a combination of both? And do you prefer one over the other?
Sure. It is a complete combination of both. I do work with clients, with architects and a contractor from the ground up, building their, dream homes. I work with clients on full renovations, And I work with clients that, have bought a home, they're not renovating, and we're just doing all the furnishings. I enjoy all aspects of it. It's just, it kind of depends where you want to be and who you are. I prefer an old home. I am a complete grandma. I want the floors to be uneven. I want the doors to not shut. I want the windows to be single pane. Much to my husband's, dismay of all of that. I love the charm of an old home, but that's not for everybody as well. So, if that is not for everyone, I do love to work with clients in building their home, but in an old way. So, paying attention to the molding and, the plank of the floors, and just, making the spaces of the house feel a little more timeless and less just new.
You are a total card-carrying grand millennial.
Yes, I am totally a grandma, a grand millennial. I like all the things that old people like.
What do you think has spurred that trend?
That's a great question. I don't know that I have the answer to that. It might be kind of that, like I said, the backlash to that minimalist feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say I didn't love this look forever. I grew up with it. I loved it. I graduated college and I had this adorable, cute home when I moved back from Savannah in Peachtree Hills, and which is this cute little neighborhood right near ADAX, very young neighborhood, new families. It was this, teeny little 1930s bungalow. It was adorable. And at that point, I maybe more liked the Domino look, Domino magazine. It was that gourd lamp. It was kind of the wild wallpaper, lots of kind of Ming dragon, the turquoise, foo dogs. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But in that, it was a foundation of traditional pieces. I still had the English arm sofa, but it was a little more, maybe kind of more bold colors, I guess, and less florals. And so I think a lot of my age group had that, or they had the restoration look, and they're kind of like, wait a minute, I want what my parents had. And I think that is kind of what we talked about, that innate of home. And what makes me feel like I'm home is to be kind of in the house I grew up in. And so I want my house to feel kind of like that. But I think then there's the opposite of that, where people are like, oh, I don't want my house anything like where I grew up. And I don't want, the swags and cascade curtains. I don't want the chintz. And, but I think most of my clients are kind of wanting that feeling of, home, and that's what they grew up in. And Atlanta is traditional and kind of always been that way. So.
Are you doing swags and jabos?
I haven't done any swags yet. I'd like to get somebody to do one, but I hadn't been able to get there yet.
Or balloon shades?
Oh, I love it. I'm about to install a balloon shade on Thursday, and I'm thrilled.
That's great. That's terrific. Well, do we have any questions from anyone who's posed them to us?
Oh, I think
Everybody.
Savannah.
Okay, I don't know if you all can hear
There
me.
we go. We can hear you now.
Great. That took
I
just
can hear you, Savannah. I can't see you,
Good.
but I can hear you.
We do have some great questions coming in, and some of this you started to touch on is the challenges that everyone has had to deal with over the
Sure.
past 13 months. So specific to, Stephen, working and developing a collection, what was that like, developing product and trying to launch product in the midst of a pandemic?
It was challenging. We shut down our design studios a year ago, March, and furloughed most of our team. And so I was working solo for quite a while, based in Charleston. Our mills were open and closed. It was a mixed bag, but we did have communication and did keep things moving forward. We had a tremendous amount of product sort of in the pipeline, which really benefited us at the end of the day, because when we were able to get back to our New York studios, where I am right now, we had some product that we could get moving on really quickly. And that was really important, given the fact that our business has been really strong, as designers and the people that shop with us have iterated as well. So it was challenging. It still has some challenges, but for the most part, it's moving pretty smoothly.
That's great. And Clary, I mean, for you going through this process of designing an installation, what was different about that? Working with product that technically was not available, was technically not on the market. How is that different?
I thought it was great. Y'all had wonderful photos. I mean, it was, I didn't, I mean, I didn't have any actually design challenges in any of it. Really, I think the only thing that has been a little challenging is, the foam delay, and we experienced that with the install, of the room. I think that my beautiful ruffled chair skirt is coming. I think maybe next week, maybe. And the little benches that also have foam in them. But I mean, other than that, I didn't find anything to be challenging. This whole new foam delay situation, I think, is just everyone's experiencing it. I haven't had any issues with fabric though. I've had all of y'all's fabric ships very quickly, and I haven't had any issues with the fabric or wallpaper. It's mainly now for me with upholstery.
Yeah, I think it's been such a challenge for everybody. I mean, I am much like you and our other clients. I myself am waiting for for some of my new
Yes.
but we will get through it.
Yes.
Let me just go back to your question, Savannah, thinking about it a little bit further, in that I think the biggest change from our design development standpoint has been not being able to meet with our suppliers face to face, whether it's traveling to Europe or having their representatives, their designers and agents come to us in our studio here. So we've had to adjust to Zoom calls to see new collections, to see new qualities and constructions. And that obviously does present a problem, and that we're in a touch and feel business.
Sure.
But now that we've been doing it for several months, it's become sort of second nature. And
Exactly.
I don't foresee us necessarily going back to the way things were beforehand. And I think that's the way it is for a lot of us in a lot of aspects of our lives.
I mean, I felt the Zoom thing challenging in the beginning, but now I have multiple meetings a week with architects and clients via Zoom. And actually, it's great because a lot of my clients, do have young children. And so they're able to, put them in front of the TV and then get on the Zoom. And so they're not having to find a babysitter or childcare. And all of us can meet on the Zoom. And I find we're getting just the same amount of work done. The architect puts the plans on the screen and is drawing while we're talking about things. And, I think it's been wonderful. I mean, it's, with a new baby too at home, I haven't wanted to, leave her as much. And it's been great while she naps. I can just Zoom with the client.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
feel
no,
some of these
I think that's the case with
adaptations
us as well.
come forward and that you'll continue on with some of the adaptations to your process?
I will. It is very important to me. Stephen and I touched on this, to be a great parent. And so, I think that if I can, if my clients are happy and okay with it, if we can, Zoom with the architect for a meeting, then, I think it's great. Now, on-site stuff, actually getting on the construction site, it does not work, but just for developing plans and things like that, I think it's great. And I've started to work with out of town clients, and we Zoom, I send them all the samples, they're touching and feeling them. I'm going over, the project, looking at the CAD drawings and explaining everything. And it's actually worked great. I mean, I think it's been, at first I was a little confused by it, but now I've gotten it, and y'all showed me now how to do a Zoom background today. I'm very excited about that.
I obviously don't know how to do that.
I mean, I think there is a part of design that the face to face with the client and touching the fabrics is, you have to do that. Yes, you are going to always have that. But I do think for some of these beginning of developing the presentation, you can do some of it via Zoom. I mean, I think you can do it, and I think it works great.
Has anything else, the experience of the past year, changed for either of you working on projects? Like, do you have a different sensibility for what luxury, or how you define luxury?
I've always tried to encourage my clients to, invest. And so I do feel like people now are understanding that maybe a little bit more about the investment and the waiting for things. Um, so I think people are realizing, we want to put the Lee Joffa fabric on my sofa. So we're going to invest, and it's just because we're in our home so much more now. Is that going to change? Yes, I do think people will travel again, but I mean, I don't know when I'm personally going overseas yet. And I do I want to go to Italy, in a month when we still have the mask on and it's not, the music is not there, and the crowds and the gathering. That's so much about traveling, is just observing of the culture and everything. If the culture is not kind of what it usually is it worth I don't know the answer to that. So I intend to still be home for a while.
I think that's the case with all of us.
You know?
I would echo what Clary said, in that I think it's just a renewed appreciation of our environments and how we live. And yes, it'll go back to a certain extent, but I think people do want to be surrounded by really nice things. And, we strive to provide that to Clary and all of our great customers.
Totally. And one of the best things I did for myself during this pandemic is I redid my master bedroom, and I am so happy I did, because I've spent so much time in there. And at night I walk upstairs and I think, gosh, this is such a pretty room. I wake up in the morning and it makes me feel happy. And I think that that's what we all want, is to walk around our homes and say, gosh, like, this space just makes me feel so happy and so good, and I love to be here. So
I do think that just like the ultimate luxury is to be able to have spaces that you live in or work in, where the space brings you peace, calm, joy, comfort. I do think many of us, that is a new definition, maybe an old, new again, just like our ruffled skirts and our balloon shapes.
Is your new bedroom scheme blue and white?
It is. It is blue and white.
Stephen, you share time between your homes in New York and in Charleston. The Avondale collection itself, in describing it, you've referenced Southern design and culture. How does your time in the South influence your design perspective and your creativity?
Well, I think it's made me appreciate pretty things more. Again, as we spoke about, just the way the Southerners approach how they live certainly has infused some of the things that we're doing. Just doing things that are pretty floral, pretty small prints that might coordinate with that, or strong enough on their own that you could do an entire guest bedroom with them with just lots of white. So fresh, pretty, clean, soft color. I think our color palette is maybe particularly with this collection, Avondale, which is named after a neighborhood in Charleston, for those who know Charleston very well.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a great little neighborhood, quirky neighborhood in West Ashley, just across the Ashley River.
Okay. Oh, and one thing I wanted to point out, Stephen, that I was so thrilled about this collection. I did not do this in the Avondale room because I wanted to showcase as many prints as possible. I love that you did coordinating fabrics and wallpapers. I love a room that you can not only do the wallpaper, and I love a jewel box room where it's just all one print. And I was so excited to see, because that not many fabric houses have that anymore. And so I was thrilled that y'all, were able to, that you did that this time.
Well, it's because of designers like you who've been asking us to do more and more of it. And so this collection in particular was a great one to do it with, because many of the patterns lended themselves, elbow print, which is the small scale print behind you, just lended themselves to wallpaper as well as fabric. And again, it's that secular trend of the 80s kind of look kind of coming back. And we just felt it was right for the marketplace and right for this collection.
I love it. I'm thrilled.
I'm about to decorate as well. I'm moving from Charleston to a new house in Beaufort.
Oh, Beaufort is so beautiful.
Yeah, great. It's great. So a little more laid back, which I
Okay.
felt like I needed being a New Yorker and spending my time between here and the South. So going to be decorating myself a little bit.
Well, are you using fabrics from the Avondale collection?
I haven't decided yet, although I think I am going to use the same wallpaper you used.
Oh, good. That
I
would be
I
so
love it.
happy.
We do it both in fabric and wallpaper. It's called Whitaker, and I just think it's such a great look.
I
I'm not
do
going to
too.
do the blue and white colorway. I wear a lot of blue, but I don't necessarily want to live with blue and white. So there's a really pretty soft, sort of sagey green
Oh, I loved that color too. It was very
color that
pretty.
I think I may use. But I'm the same way. I'm going to do wallpaper everywhere.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Well, then you're going to invite us all to come visit.
You're welcome. Y'all come down.
Well, we have just a couple of minutes left before we'll need to sign off. For both of you, what's next on the horizon for you? Even anything interesting that you're starting to work on, concepts and
Well,
development?
we're working with new product. I mean, I oversee the Lee Joffa Design Studio as well as Brunswick Fees. So we've always got stuff going on. I've got an incredibly talented team. Lee Joffa headed up by a young woman named Shelby Miller, and the Brunswick Fees Studio headed up by Addie Generalist. So we've always got things in the hopper, if you will, at various stages. But I think we've got a new collection we're doing with Oscar de la Renta. This will be our fourth collaboration. They're a great team and have such a strong brand and point of view. So that we're just ordering now, which will be launching the end of this year, the beginning of next year. Beautiful new Brunswick collection that we're calling Louvernay, which will launch this summer. So there's lots and lots of, we think, really pretty things for you to specify for your clients.
Oh, great.
Everyone
I
else
can't
who's
wait.
joined us. Yeah.
I'm just continuing to work on projects and plan to spend hopefully a good bit of the summer down with my parents at the beach and kind of coming back and forth between, here and there, and spending time with my sweet new little baby. Maybe we're going to, maybe she'll start walking, And, I'm looking forward to, hopefully being able to get together with friends more and, do things outside and really kind of that sense of community I've loved being with my family, but I've really missed, spending time with more friends and things. So I'm, looking forward to this summer where, everyone hopefully is getting back together again and feeling more comfortable doing that.
We may be making our first business trip abroad as well. There's
great.
a textile fair in Italy that's always held in May, and they've postponed it to the first week of September. So we're, as of yesterday, booking rooms to hopefully make that trip.
Ooh, fabulous.
So looking forward to that.
Fingers crossed. Yes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, both of you. It's been such a pleasure having you with us today. And thank you to everyone who has joined us during Design ADAC. And we invite you to visit our showroom in ADAC. We're on the first level, Suite 106. You can see the nearly complete installation. And then you can come visit again at the end of May to see the complete installation and the realization of Clary's vision for the Lee Joffa Avondale collection. We truly hope that it is inspiring for everyone.
Yes. Thank you all so much for having me. This has been great.
Thanks. See you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.